And we are live once again on a Monday.
Yeah.
The way it worked out this weekend.
We do what we got to do, Jacob. You
We
know how it
do.
is.
But we are back with our Jurassic Park episode. We've been talking about this one for a few weeks now, and it's finally here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's you could say it's a podcast 65 million years in the making, or just like a week and a half because of personal things. either one. maybe not that long. Yeah, just give or take a few years. But yeah, no, this is when we've been talking about doing it. Occasionally we just do these sort of franchise discussions, to relate to something going on. We did our Scream discussion, just kind of talking about the series, and yeah, we'll do this to kind of tie into Dominion. So, Top Gun doesn't exactly have a whole franchise. It's just, two movies.
Right.
So, we can't spend too much time on that one. But yeah, we got 6 movies here, and supposedly it's over. I don't know about that. We'll see. I always have my skepticism when it comes to that, especially when it comes to money and how much money they want to do.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they could bring back another one, and it's like, well, this one really isn't a Jurassic Park movie, but it has something to do with this, that, and the other. We'll see. I don't ever believe franchises are totally dead, despite what anybody ever says. So, especially with all these legacy sequels and things that come out years later. So you never know.
Right. I mean, you just brought up Top Gun. It's been like what, 30 plus years, and
yeah, right.
People, so.
Well, and I think Top Gun Maverick, I'm still convinced came out sooner than Avatar 2 will come to Avatar 1. So despite the fact that we have a trailer now, I'm still not convinced that movie's going to come out until I'm sitting in the theater.
Right. Yeah, it's supposed to, I still haven't actually seen the first Avatar, so.
Okay. Well, I mean, you might as well at this point wait, because they'll probably re-release in the theaters, like the same month or something. So you might as well just see it theatrically, and just check it out then. So
it just wants to pad its box office record.
Solidify that against the Endgame thing. Yeah, totally. Right. The ever-going.
I think they re-released it in China or something, and it overtook Endgame again. So
yeah, they did it during the pandemic just to have a movie out there for people if they wanted to see it, and then it overtook Endgame again. And then I guarantee you they will re-release it. There will be some double features. There will be probably a week before. They'll probably just put it out there, for like a couple of shows a day, a week before, and it'll make however many more millions of dollars. So, but anyways, we're going off on a James Cameron Avatar tangent, but we're going to talk about another big blockbuster franchise. Yeah, the Jurassic one, more of a one that came from the brain of Steven Spielberg, and Michael Crichton, and then kind of broke off into its own thing. So, yeah, this should be an interesting one. Do you have a 2-part? So, your first time seeing Jurassic Park, and which one you saw first theatrically? Kind of a 2-part.
So I may have seen this. I may have seen the first in theaters. Like my parents might have been like, "Hey, we're gonna go do a movie." My brothers would have been 5, and I would have been 3.
Mm-hmm.
So if they were brave enough to take 3 rowdy boys to the movie theater, maybe.
Right.
But I don't remember seeing this one in theaters.
Okay.
I honestly can't tell you the first time I watched it. It was probably when I was a teenager, and I was like, "Huh, cool, dinosaurs! They're gonna eat people, and it's gonna be awesome." So I can't pinpoint the exact time I saw it for the first time, but surprisingly, the first one I saw in theaters out of the entire franchise was Fallen Kingdom.
Oh wow!
No, not Fallen Kingdom. Not Fallen. No, I'm sorry.
Jurassic World.
I thought
Jurassic World.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna say you were old enough to go watch Jurassic World.
I saw that one. I think I saw Fallen Kingdom in theaters as well, and then Dominion. We won't talk.
We'll talk about it. Yeah, he's seen it. We'll just leave it at that.
I've seen it.
We'll just leave it at that. So yeah, the earliest I know I did not see the original one in the theaters, because I think at the time my parents thought it would have been a little too intense, because I was 7 when it came out. But I do have a distinct memory of about a year later they bought it on VHS and let me watch it at home. And I remember this because it was the first movie I distinctly remember, at least I probably had nightmares before because of something else, but when I vividly remember having nightmares about that night was after watching Jurassic Park, and it wasn't the T-Rex, because the T-Rex was like so big that it was like a Godzilla sort of thing. I'd seen Godzilla movies, so like that didn't bother me because it was like a giant, thing, but it was more the raptors, and like because they were at our level, you know what I mean, they were like almost human size, and it was like a mini version of that could run after you and chase after you and stuff like that. So I remember having some pretty nightmare, hardcore nightmares after I got over that and became, watched the movie a lot on VHS. And I know I was 11 when the sequel came out, and I know I saw that one in theaters, like for sure. I'm pretty sure I saw it with my dad or something. So, and I've been a big fan of this franchise ever since. And we'll talk about it kind of movie by movie. But yeah, the first movie, shows up a lot on, as you know, Jacob, on tournament fights and things like that. People's favorite movies. But and again, it's one of those things where sometimes we're like, oh, Jurassic Park again. But at the same time, when you look at it, like there's a reason, because the movie's awesome, because the movie's like almost a perfect movie and a perfect amalgamation of what a great kind of summer movie and kind of perfectly constructed and what it should be. So, I mean, there's a reason for that, because it still lives up to it, and I'm still in awe of it every time I see it.
Yeah, agreed. It showed up in my top 120. I'm pretty sure it might have made the Sweet 16 for one of the episodes, so we'll see it again in the championship, because and for good reason. Like you said, it's a near perfect movie, especially this first one. I think all the sequels have something good to them, but I don't think that. I think they just started at such a high.
When you start in the stratosphere and then just make it into the clouds, it's kind of like, where do you go when you start in a high note? And that ends up being a problem for some franchises, although we have seen, ones where the sequel, does do it better. I don't know if that's the case for any of the ones in this franchise, although I will say I like most of the movies in the series, so I'm not knocking that, and I'm pretty high, actually, probably higher than most people on a couple of them. And we'll talk about that. But I mean, it's one of those things where that first movie is so good, and again, so well put together, and what Steven Spielberg did with it and this adaptation. And, Dean Cundey is an amazing cinematographer, and the movie looks great. And John Williams doing one of his best scores, not like he ever puts out a bad one, but like, it's a top tenor, for John Williams, which is saying something, in that collaboration. And again, it's a good example also, Jacob, of taking a book and reconstructing it a little bit to where, like, taking the story, but changing what you need to change to make a good movie, because the book is definitely different. And if they had just done that, it would be a vastly different movie, much like the original Jaws and the book. So, taking that adaptation and changing what you need to change to fit the movie.
Okay, I've never actually read the book. I knew it was based on the
long
book.
time ago. Yeah, I read that one in the sequel a long time ago, but I know, there's different characters that have, the characters definitely have different things going on, and I mean the basic premise is kind of the same, but there's a lot different from what it is. I'm sure you can see like YouTube videos about it,
probably
breaking it down, things like that. But let's talk about this first movie. 1993. Spielberg had a big year because he had this and Schindler's List, and it was like he made Schindler's List and then was he made Jurassic Park first, and then from what I think, he was like editing and looking at stuff in post-production on Jurassic Park while he was making Schindler's List, which was nuts. So he had to like do this hardcore, dark, serious movie, and then later like also try to balance making this big blockbuster, popcorn film, on the side as well, which must have been, tough. But he has a great year. He has both these movies, and it was a banger of a 93 for Mr. Spielberg, probably the peak of his career, realistically.
Yeah, I mean, that just speaks to the level of skill he has at his profession then, because like Schindler's List is widely regarded as one of like the best movies of all time. And if he's working on it while editing another movie, like that's that's just insane. Like I'd probably have a hard enough time focusing on one movie at a time. Like,
Yeah, because I mean, there was a lot of post production on the movie because obviously this was, a definite giant step for CGI, and originally it was going to be there's stuff out there you can see on like the documentaries and the behind the scenes of the stuff where it was going to be stop motion. Like literally like stop motion kind of Harryhausen sort of stuff, and it would have been a vastly different movie. Obviously, it just wouldn't have been the same movie. But what they were able to do with the CGI, that still holds up for the most part in a lot of cases, but also taking all those great scenes where they're using actual animatronics and Phil Tippett and what they do, when I mean, you can feel the certain scenes, like we'll get into it and just talk about some examples. There's stuff during that first T-Rex attack where the foot just plants down into the mud and it's a real foot, you can see that and you feel the weight of it, and the head just kind of slowly kind of turning and blowing the hat off of Grant's head. You feel that because it's right there, which is what I love about this movie and some of the animatronics and some of the real stuff that they put in there mixed in with the CGI. I've just always been a fan of that whenever they can use it. And I know even on the most recent one, Dominion, there was definitely some scenes where they were using animatronics and robots and stuff. You could tell. And those scenes are the ones that kind of stand out when they're able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll agree. I think the dinosaurs, like they just look awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and if you think back to 1993 and that's just amazing technology, and I think it's just I think Jurassic Park is a game changer.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. So I hope you cannot hear. If you can hear the honking outside, I apologize. I live at a women's center. I live above a women's center, I should say.
Yeah.
And there is a Planned Parenthood across the street.
Oh, so there's like protests going on outside, and they're honking horns and stuff. That can be a little distracting.
So if you can hear the honking, I apologize. There are people hollering too. I'm not going to mention why they're protesting. You can probably figure that out.
I'm sure you can figure out. Just read the news. You can figure out. Anyways, we'll do our best. No, we'll do our best. Norv, you were talking about, just how this movie was definitely, I think it's one of those touchstones and one of those milestones. Like we look at different points in history where technology or something took a leap forward. I mean, you can point to this one definitely in the early 90s as far as the CGI really stepping up. Something like Toy Story, 2 years later for animation, and a couple years later with The Matrix, for what they did with CGI. And even before this, Terminator 2 was like a big influence on that as far as, Industrial Light and Magic kind of getting that process going, which led to Jurassic Park as well. But yeah, there are these touchstone movies that still hold up or hold that place in Hollywood history where things kind of jumped forward and really pushed, because some of these movies get made and it's like they have to invent technology, that doesn't exist yet, which can be, how intimidating is that? Which is why they were going to do stop motion. It's like, no, let's see what we can do. Like, what can we really, really do? And I think there's a clip online from one of the documentaries you can see when somebody first did the Gallimimus like running in that sequence where they're running next to Grant. It was like a concept like prototype thing, and then Spielberg saw that and was like, oh wow, like that's incredible. And he kept watching it just over and over and again. It was just like a 10-second thing of it running, and it was like, like we got to do that. Like we have to just push this forward and do something different and something that's groundbreaking. And he's been one of those guys who's done groundbreaking stuff, with Jaws or Close Encounters or Raiders, or any of that stuff, throughout history. So he's definitely one of those guys, along with Cameron and some of those other guys that push that stuff forward.
Yeah. Along with just like the great CGI and all that, I think this was a nice blend of a sort of an adventure movie kind of in the beginning, and then I don't want to use the word disaster.
It's it's like a horror disaster movie because I mean, there's disaster elements because there's literally a hurricane going on, Jacob. So I mean, it's got somewhat of a disaster element. There's literally a hurricane blowing by, and there's thunderstorms and all kinds of stuff going on. So I mean, there are disaster elements, but I've also always argued that this is definitely somewhat of a horror movie. At least a percentage of it, because there are sequences, and I can give you pinpoint examples. The scene where Ellie is down there flipping the switches, and she turns turns on all the stuff, and Mr. Hammond, I think we're back in business. The rapper, comes out behind her from behind the wires, and that jump scare, that's a horror movie. I mean, that's a horror scene. I've always made this argument, if you substitute Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers or somebody in for a raptor in that scene, it's a horror movie. And then he's chasing her. There's this stuff where Grant, they're running in the control room, and he goes, the door locks, Ellie Buddha, and he looks back up, and like it's like the classic horror thing of like you look down and then you look back up and the killer's right there. And again, you substitute a killer for a raptor, and that's a horror scene. So I mean, it's 100%. That's like my argument of like how this is a horror movie. It's got that monster movie kind of elements to it with the T-Rex. Like, I mean, like I said, I kind of related it to sort of like a Godzilla thing, back in the day with the T-Rex. But yeah, like it's definitely like got that adventure element that Spielberg's always great at with stuff like Raiders and Jaws, and then it kind of takes a turn and gets a little darker and it turns into a kind of a horror survival movie, really. So I would definitely argue that.
Mm-hmm. And I think to go along with that horror element, they built tension in this movie really well.
Yeah,
like that when they're in the cars and it's they're flashing the lights like turn that light off, and then the dinosaurs kind of the scene in the kitchen.
God, the kitchen scene is what gave me nightmares when I was a kid. Oh my God. And there's some great callbacks in that too, Jacob, if you think about it, because and throughout that whole raptor sequence, because the movie kind of starts with the T-Rex, and the initial dinosaur attack, then kind of you get the Dilophosaurus stuff, and then kind of shifts to the raptors, and then obviously has the T-Rex at the end. But like, there's a great callback, when Grant's like playing around with the little claw, at the beginning that he has the fossil, and then you get that great little just shot and sound design when the raptor is walking through the kitchen, and it just takes that beat to go, it's step, and you see the claw doing the click, 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 click on the ground, like it's just that's the terrifying stuff right there. And you see that claw in action. And with Muldoon, another great character in this movie who I love, played by Bob Peck, the game warden guy, when it's a callback to when Grant's talking to the kid and he's saying, it's not about the one you see, it's about the ones that come from the sides, the ones you didn't see. And that's what happens to him. He's focused on the one with the gun, and the one comes out from the side. Like, there are all these little things you don't pick up necessarily on initial viewing, and you watch and you see how well constructed it is. But I mean, all those action sequences are crazy. There's great sound design in this movie. I love just the sounds of the T-Rex when he's stepping, and they do the thing with the water, for the steps is great. And how they did that was they had to use a guitar string like strung to the cup and like strum the guitar, and it would like make the little thing. They tried all kinds of stuff to get it to make that perfect little dip, that it does every time it makes the step. But you just kind of hear it in the distance, and all the different things they used for the dinosaur noises, like all the animal noises that they pulled and kind of played with and stretched out on computers and things, are great. Again, just great Spielberg sound design. Just a technical masterpiece, really. This whole movie. Yeah. Anyways,
the perk delivery next to a main street in your town.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But I'll agree with that. Technical masterpiece. Score, like you said, I don't think it's just top 10 John Williams. I think it's like top 10.
It might be. Yeah. I'm just saying, even because, when you put together a top 10 of all time, you're going to have John Williams scores in there. That's just like a given, but even for John Williams, it's like, when you're trying to make a top 5 or a top 10 John Williams, I mean, what do you go with? Do you go with Star Wars, Jaws, Superman, Schindler's List, Jurassic Park? I mean, any number of, dozens of movies that he's done, it's like, what do you go with? But this is, when they're first doing the thing, and he's, he says, there it is, in the helicopter, dun 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 dun. It's such a great adventure, like masterful score, and just the slow, and the way he's able to twist that when they first see the brachiosaur, the slow, like dun 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 dun. It just conveys the beauty of the dinosaurs, as crazy it is what he's done, the majesty really of these animals. And they've only been able to replicate that, that feeling a few times here and there, I think throughout the series, of just the sheer beauty of that scene and the appreciation of the animals. But yeah, all that stuff is fantastic. All the musical cues are great. Even the stuff when Nedry's like going through and doing his like espionage, dun 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 dun, 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 it's like this sort of almost like not like a Mission Impossible theme, but it kind of cranks up into like this heisty kind of music, and it's even good stuff, as far as that goes. So I definitely enjoy the score of this thing. I could listen to it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even gotten into the performances yet.
Oh yeah, the cast of characters and then the great, people that are just chocked throughout this movie. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. You got Sam Neill, Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, who would, later on return. In the most recent one, I think the three of them, like I can't see anyone else playing these roles, especially Jeff Goldblum as Ian Malcolm. I think that was just really solid casting.
Yeah.
Wayne Knight, I don't think it's insane to say that this was his best performance.
No, it's definitely, other than Newman, obviously from Seinfeld, his most famous performance. And he's such a great, just like weasel. But again, at the same time, and I'll somewhat defend him again, you understand his motivations and his back and forth with Hammond when he's talking about, how hard it is to run this whole place with a minimal staff, with a skeleton crew and all the stuff he actually does and how underpaid he is. You kind of understand at least his motivation for kind of selling out some of the stuff to a competitor, or, in it for financial reasons. Again, he's not a good guy. He's doing something, that's wrong. But you kind of, again, that's the sign of a good villain, is at least understanding where they're coming from. So I appreciate that. Yeah. John Hammond, Richard Attenborough is awesome. That delivery of Welcome to Jurassic Park is great. And his monologue at the end is great when you kind of see him really break down about like, what his dream for the park was. And he just wanted to bring these animals to life. And, the thing about the flea circus, like I wanted to give them something that wasn't an illusion, something that was real that you could touch and see. And, and he's not all in it for the money. That's what I like about him. He legitimately like wants to bring something unique. Sam Jackson, man, like even before Pulp Fiction in here, doing his thing, and he's really memorable.
One of his most tame performances.
Yeah, really. But he's cool, and kind of his, he has a couple little freak out moments that are a lot of fun and kind of angry moments. But and like I said, Bob Peck as Muldoon is like one of my favorite kind of scene stealing characters. Like I love his rant about the raptors at the cage, talking about the feeders and how they learn and how smart they are, and all that stuff is a lot of fun. And he brings like this, like it's this very strange, like you just can't take your eyes off him when he do, when he stops the room. He's just like, what, all of you, they're approaching the Tyrannosaurus paddock. He's he's like he's got this presence about him that that you kind of can't take your eyes off of, but he's really great. Yeah, this whole movie, even the guy who, and I'm forgetting his name, the guy who plays the lawyer, he's great too. Like everybody plays their role so perfectly. The kids are great. Just playing our names, but the kids are awesome. They have great chemistry. Lex is a great screamer. She's got a good scream. And but Tim, I even like kind of his arc. He's kind of annoying at first, and he's just bugging, Grant, all over the place. But you feel for him when he's under that car and he's screaming, like thinking he's gonna die. When the T-Rex is like crushing him, like you're like, dude, you have to remember these are kids, man. Like you don't want, he does a great job of making you kind of come around on the characters, and it's a lot of fun. But yeah, this whole movie's just chock full of great performances, which just add to it.
I'd scream if I thought that.
Oh yeah, of course.
Like
totally.
I don't know. The way, Dr. Grant was able to stay calm in that, like, you've done this before.
And Malcolm stepping up and showing that he's not a coward, man, when he jumps out of the car with the flare too, and he's like, get the kids, and he's the T-Rex, man. Like, it shows, because he's been kind of like, you like him, but he's also kind of hitting on Dr. Sadler a little bit while he's with Grant, and kind of you're sort of like, well, he's just sort of a playboy, and he talks about how he's married occasionally, you know, always looking for the next ex Mrs. Malcolm, you know, and all this kind of stuff. And so you're kind of like, you know, I don't know about this guy. Like he might like, you know, do something shady, but then like he turns out to be like a good guy. You know, he's you don't quite understand his motivations all the time, but he's a good dude, and he's you know, he does some heroic things, and he cares about everybody. So yeah, I mean, you know, I love just all those little character moments, you know, throughout the movie. And yeah, who doesn't love you know, Wayne Knight's death in the movie with the Dilophosaurus? What a great scene. And again, a total horror scene, because it turns like, it starts into this like little cute little dinosaur, but man, when he pops out the rattlers, man, like it's horrifying, man. That's scary. Scary stuff, man. Yeah, I dig this movie from start to finish. It's just got great setups, great payoffs. You know, like we said, excellent music, excellent, you know, cinematography, all the technical aspects of it. Yeah, good stuff, man. It's hard to top this movie, man. And there's a reason, again, why everybody has it on their favorite movies of all time. And I've told the story before. I'll just touch on it briefly again, but I've watched this movie so many times that when my mom and I watched it at a brewery outside, they had horrible speakers. You can hear everything except the dialogue. But I said, no problem, Mom, I got you. And I was like reciting the movie almost word for word, you know, to her, even though we couldn't hear it. So that's how many times I've seen this movie and how memorable this stuff is. But yeah, good stuff all around, man. Jurassic Park is, you know, it's a masterpiece, man. It's great. He had 2 masterpieces in '93, man. That's saying something. Two different types of movies. One's a masterpiece of popcorn, you know, Hollywood entertainment, and the other one's a masterpiece of a kind of a historical, you know, biopic sort of thing. So, yeah, two very different movies, but two excellent films.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know we're not ranking the franchise, but I think it's safe to say that this is number one. If we
were doing the tier ranker, yeah, this would be S tier. Like it would absolutely be a no question, like a S tier, you know, like all timer. Of course. I mean, yeah,
like, it's not even full of a lot of action, but I think, you know, when you guys did your 90 to 94 action movies, it still made the S tier because I think the action in it was top notch and very high quality, and definitely added to the movie. An action movie, I'm not sure will make the S tier when you do 95 to 99, but it's still a pretty solid movie. Is the next one in the franchise.
I want to defend this movie a lot because I like The Lost World a whole lot, and again, I'm not going to come out and say it's as good as Jurassic Park. I would never say that, but this is one that I've gone back to probably way more times than I should have, and I watch it a lot. And I think this movie, though, is extremely entertaining from start to finish. I think, you know, the score, John Williams comes back, he does a different score, you know, it's a little more adventure-y, you know, in this one. But I still like it. I still like Malcolm and kind of where his character is, being kind of the veteran and kind of the one who's warning everybody, but of course nobody wants to listen to him. You know, everybody's all optimistic and running around. I like the setting, the fact that it's on this Site B, you know, East Isla Sorna, like this sort of breeding ground, and it's them, you know, not in the park. It's just kind of a jungle setting. And again, it still has a really good cast. I mean, other than Goldblum, you know, Julianne Moore's in there. You got Vince Vaughn in kind of a really early different role.
Vince Vaughn was awesome.
I think he's great in this movie. And I keep forgetting, like, this was your first time, so I'm sorry, I don't want to trample on you. Like, I want to hear your first thoughts.
No. Yeah,
like, what you thought of the movie? Yeah,
I thought it was really good. I thought it was an interesting choice that they chose to bring, like, again, and not having read the books.
Sure.
I thought it was interesting that Malcolm was the one brought back and not Grant or Sattler, because they seemed like the obvious choice. But I really enjoyed Dr. Malcolm in this movie a lot. I thought he was great. Like, and seeing him in that father role as well.
Yeah.
It was just a different side of him than you know, the first Jurassic Park movie. And like I thought he was great in this movie. Like, I know Jurassic Park is a better movie, but I think I liked him more in this movie, just as a character. I think Vince Vaughn was great. Julianne Moore was great. I liked again, the look of the dinosaurs was really solid. I like the premise, kind of come into this other island and um, kind of the seeing the different sides of why people are on this island. Like some of them, like the guy just wants I can't remember his character's name, but played by
Well,
Pete
yeah, Pete
Postlethwaite.
Postlethwaite, yeah, Roland. He's just like a
Roland.
hunter who just wants to hunt the apex predator, which is the buck. He wants to hunt the T Rex, and that's literally his like only motivation is like you. I don't care what you guys do because he's with the Engine people, and we get more into Engine. It's kind of the
Mhm.
Wayland Yutani of this franchise is Engine, and yeah, they're wanting to take the animals off the island and bring them over to San Diego and kind of start a new park, in the States. And yeah, he's just along for a ride because he wants the chance to get his trophy, to get his ultimate sort of hunter trophy. I think Pete Postlethwaite steal this movie. He's
Oh yeah,
awesome in this movie.
he's
He's
really
so
good.
good. And if you look it up, Spielberg, there's interviews where they ask him about some of the greatest actors he's ever worked with, and he mentions Pete Postlethwaite and said this guy is like legit. Like after he worked with him, like one of the greatest actors I've ever worked with. Like that scene where he gives the monologue while they're driving on the trail, where he talks about this is a game trail, carnivores hunt on game trails, and I just want the opportunity to hunt a male, a buck. He does that whole like long monologue. He did it in one take. Like he always did it in one take. He never screwed it up. Like he's a complete amazing actor. I think he's got a ton of charisma in this movie. I really like. He's not like he's a hunter, but he's not like a super evil dude because by the end of the movie, we get that stuff with him before he leaves where he's just like, I've seen enough death. Like I didn't come here for this,
Yeah.
to like be in the midst of all this, death and mayhem. But yeah, he's great. I think Eddie, Richard Schiff as Eddie, like they're kind of their weapons guy, on Malcolm's crew, like and how much of I love his heroic arc, man. Like when he saves them from that cliff, like and how much he does, and to save them. Like I mean,
Mhm.
obviously unfortunately he pays for it. He gets eaten, but like that whole sequence is. I don't know. I don't know if I would say it's like the best sequence in the series. But I legitimately think that trailer cliff sequence might be the best pure action sequence of the whole franchise.
Oh yeah, no,
I think that whole sequence is incredible. Like not just good. I think it's incredible.
yeah,
Like
no,
the whole
I'm right
sequence.
there with you. Like I thought one of them wasn't surviving that sequence.
Yeah.
Like I thought one of them, I thought maybe Vince Vaughn was gonna go or Julianne Moore. I knew it wasn't gonna be Jeff Goldblum. But
Yeah.
because he shows up in the later movies. But yeah, I thought one of them. I was like, oh, which one's going?
Hmm.
I'm not ready for this because I like the characters.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, that sequence is awesome.
Hmm.
Uh, um, so
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, I just think the movie has a great pace. I like all the technology they're using. I like the dynamic between the two camps, and then kind of sabotaging the camp, and then kind of almost realizing that was a mistake. When they all get stranded. The fact that they sabotage all their equipment is like, yeah, you thought you were doing the right thing, but now. Dummies, we don't have a way to like get off this island, and now we
right.
have to go to and you destroyed all of our satellite equipment, and now we have to go to this other place to kind of fire that up. But yeah, like how they kind of have to team up, after that, and I think it's really fun. The raptor sequence in this one when they're being hunted in the that field, and they're kind of just getting sucked under. It's like Tremors or something. Like I love that. Just getting pulled under the grass and
Yeah, that
and they're
was a
doing
great.
the
Yeah.
leaps, like all that stuff. It keeps them like scary, which I like. The Raptors are still terrifying, and yeah, all that stuff is good action. And yeah, it's very, you know, it's very split as far as the people, as far as the kind of extra third act that we get of the stuff in San Diego, with the T-Rex like running around. I don't know. What
Mhm.
did you think about it? Because like I don't know, did you see that coming? Did you know about that?
I did
Or
not. I didn't know about it. Like I went into this movie completely blind, actually,
mm,
which I think is the best way to watch movies for the first time. So I was
sure.
very thankful that
Hmm.
nothing about this movie was spoiled for me, which is amazing for a 25-year-old movie.
Sure, sure, sure.
um, but no, I didn't see them capturing a dinosaur and taking it back to San Diego, and then like I'm not. I liked everything leading up to that.
Mhm.
I'm still unsure how I feel about the whole San Diego sequence because I think the movie was long enough already, but
Sure.
I would have liked to have seen like how I would guess maybe like part of the fear is not knowing how it happened,
Mhm.
like everything on the ship.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, no, it was because I feel like it might have been necessary to like see how the people react to dinosaurs because like so far that we've just seen them in secluded areas
Mhm.
like on the islands and then seeing them you know
Out in the open with
out in the
civilization.
open with no
Yeah.
limitations like at
Yeah.
all. um
I'll say this. Having seen Dominion now, and then going back and looking at that sequence in Lost World, this sequence in Lost World might do dinosaurs out in civilization better than anything in Dominion, I might say.
hmm,
And actually doing something with that premise because we don't get to see that in Dominion. Kind of spoiler alert, other than that news like montage at the beginning, we don't really get to see much of that. And at
right.
least this movie, if you take it in a vacuum and just take this sequence out and like showed it to somebody, you would think it's kind of from Dominion because it's like the T-Rex. It's got interesting situations. You know, he goes and he's in like the people's backyard and he's like drinking the swimming pool water and eating dogs, and then he's running down a main street and like slamming buses and like eating people in front of a Blockbuster and like, you know, like knocking stuff around on a gas station. Like it's at least something. You know, it's something about people kind of dealing with this, you know, all of a sudden there's a dinosaur in the wild, you know,
Yeah.
on Main Street, and we don't really get much of that in Dominion, so it almost makes me appreciate the sequence a little bit more looking back on it because he at least tried, and apparently the backstory of this is Spielberg was a Godzilla fan like me, so
Hmm.
he just liked seeing like a Godzilla sort of creature like rampaging through a city, and he kind of wanted to do something like that, and this was his only chance to really do that,
Hmm.
because obviously you can't have a shark like going down Main Street or or the closest thing I think he would really get is like he'd do that World of Worlds like remake and have aliens kind of rampaging and tearing up Earth or whatever. But like he was a Godzilla fan like me. He's a kaiju fan, so he wanted to do sort of his mini Godzilla movie. So,
Hmm.
yeah, we get this kind
Well,
of
I think
sequence.
he succeeded.
Yeah, so I mean, I going back again with this new movie, I kind of appreciate the sequence a little more. I will say it's somewhat unnecessary. Like it's a extra kind of act that we don't really need, like in looking on the movie, because the movie, like the climax and stuff with the raptors, that we get in the movie, around that old facility or whatever, is pretty good. So like, and it's a good sequence, and it's kind of like the first movie where we have a lot of the T-Rex stuff earlier, and then we kind of shift to the raptors later. It's kind of a similar thing. Structure wise, but yeah, like I guess he just wanted to end with the T-Rex instead of the Raptors this time. So yeah, I mean, it's fine. I see why people don't like it, but I kind of appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I can see myself going back to this one.
Yeah.
Um, like I can see myself doing a double feature of Jurassic Park and this one, no
Yeah.
problem. Like it
Yeah.
was really solid.
Yeah. I think I appreciate the movie more than a lot of people. I know it gets for whatever reason, it just gets a lot of shit online. I don't know why. But like I think this movie's like technically again very well made. It still looks like a
Mhm.
Spielberg movie, and I could understand. Yes, it's not as good as Jurassic Park. I'll admit that, but I still think it's extremely watchable and very
Yeah,
entertaining,
absolutely.
and still got some really good stuff. Like I said, I think that trailer sequence is one of the best sequences Spielberg's ever done. Period. Ever. I think there's great stuff in that scene. So, yeah, I like it.
Yeah, and if people are going into this movie expecting a Jurassic Park level, like that's hard to duplicate. I mean, I
Yeah.
know we're talking about Spielberg and he can do it, but you know,
Well, even Spielberg, he makes Raiders and then he makes Temple of Doom, and there's like, and the consensus at the time was Temple of Doom wasn't as good as Raiders, and that was kind of, and I know there's people who love Temple of Doom. I love Temple of Doom. I have all three of that original trilogy in
yeah,
my top 128.
which
I love
we
all those
may or
movies.
may not be talking about on the next episode of a podcast about movies.
Yeah, a little tease there, because Jacob's never seen it. But I mean, well, you're gonna watch it and decide for yourself, if you like it more than Raiders, because you've seen Raiders, but you haven't seen
Yeah.
Temple of Doom or Last Crusade, so you can decide for yourself, and I'll get your perspective on it. But yeah, like it's like doing sequels is tough enough, to make, especially
Mhm.
again when you set that bar so high, it's tough. And I know he does his best, and he put a lot of passion into it, and he wanted to make a fun movie. And he, at that point, after you have these other movies that are both critical and commercial successes, as both Schindler's and Jurassic Park was, and Universal basically just gives you a blank check to do whatever you want. And when they express an interest in doing Jurassic Park, it's like, okay, I'm going to do what I want and just have a little fun. And I think you can tell he's having a good time with this one. Like I like Lost World a lot.
Yeah, me too. Again, I know we're not ranking them, but I'm a
Mhm.
ranker. I like to make lists. This is my third favorite of the franchise.
It's my number
And
two. It's literally
yeah,
my number two. I go Jurassic Park Lost World because me and Henry ranked it on Let's Rank Stuff. I go
mhm,
number two, like, for this one. And again, I'm higher than most people, but I feel like I can defend it. You know what I mean?
right.
And be
But
justified in that. So
it's only number three right now because it is my first time watching it, and upon
sure,
rewatches, it could go higher because I
sure.
really enjoyed it. Like
No,
my
totally.
one and two I've watched. Well, I've watched Jurassic Park several times, and
Mhm.
then my number two I've watched
I
a
could
few
guess what it is because it's around probably the same as ranked as mine.
times.
But before we get there, because I have a feeling I know what it is, let's talk about another first watch for you. So you watched Jurassic Park 3 for the first
Yes.
time. Yes. So did you know anything about the premise of this one, or who was in it, or anything
I
like
I
that?
I knew that Sam Neill and Laura Dern were coming back, and I
Okay.
knew that William H Macy and Taya Leone
Uh huh.
were also in it. But that's it. Like I
Hmm.
knew the cast because I had looked it up,
Okay.
um, probably for trivia or something. I don't know.
No, I'm sure. Yeah. But as far as like the premise or the plot or anything like
I
that,
knew nothing about the premise. I did not know that it was going to turn into a rescue mission
right?
with dinosaurs, which is a very different premise from the first two movies. Um,
Well,
but it was
to be fair, Goldblum kind of turns the exploration mission into his own rescue mission, thinking he needs to rescue Julianne Moore, and he states as such. But
that's true.
she is on it, but she's on an exploration. Sir, they're essentially
Mhm.
on a survey mission though, but he wants to get in and out as quickly as possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, this one is a straight rescue mission of Ben, yeah, with the parents and them kind of conning, Sam Neill into going, giving them a quote tour of the island, you know.
hmm And this one, I, I thought it was fine. I don't understand like where the negatives are coming from because I think it's a 90-minute breezy watch.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I think I think again it blends some good action pieces. I think it's got some pretty good comedy in it.
Mm,
From William H Macy. I think he's really good.
mhm.
I like bringing back Dr. Grant, and I wish they did a little bit more
With
with
Ellie,
Laura Dern just because
yeah.
I like her as a character, but I understand why they didn't. Having seen
Mhm,
the entire movie, like she's a mom now and she's got a family, and
mhm.
um,
Yeah.
so I understand, but she still plays a pivotal role in the movie.
Hmm.
um,
Yeah,
the reason they make it off the island is because of
sure.
her.
Right.
Um, Again, but I think and Joe Johnston directed this one, right?
Yeah. The same director as well. I mean, just digging into a little bit of his filmography, he started with Honey I Shrunk the Kids, and that's well, that's important because that's a very practical movie. A lot of practical sets, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
practical. He was an effects guy for a long time. I want to say he even worked on the original Jurassic Park a little bit. I think if you kind of dig into it, as far as like on the effects team. But he did The Rocketeer, which I know you're a fan of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
really solid.
yeah. He did the first Captain America film, Captain America: The First Avenger, which a lot of people like. He's got an interesting filmography, and this one's kind of smashed in there. But I think it feels different enough from the other movies, and yeah, it doesn't have the epic scale of even the first two films. It's a very condensed movie. Like I said, it's like a 95 minute movie. I mean, this movie flies by. We are in and out. I mean, in this movie, I mean, we get in there, we do our thing, and boy, are we out at like a hard 90 minute mark. I mean, it's crazy. But it's a total pulpy, like you said, rescue action film. And yeah, does it have the depth of like the first movie? No, but I still think, and when you take it for what it is after you've seen it and you go back and realize what it is, I think it's really fun. I don't think it's like a masterpiece or anything, but I've always appreciated it for how different it feels, how I think Joe Johnston knows exactly what he's making here. He's just making an action movie, you know, and he's just getting in there. He wants to do some cool dinosaur stuff, bring back an old character or two, you know, to lend a little bit of credence to it. And the way they do it is interesting, you know, with them kind of conning Grant into getting on the island and getting stuck there. But yeah, from there, I think they do some interesting things with the dinosaurs. I love the Spinosaurus. I thought they should have brought him back in Dominion, you know, spoiler, but they don't, because I really love the design of him and how he just annihilates the T-Rex. Like, it's pretty crazy, and just straight grabs him and snaps his neck. I mean, that's nuts. Like, it's just crazy. But I like what they do with the raptors in this one, kind of showing that they can coordinate, you know, set up traps. They can communicate with each other really well. You know, they're really good hunters. And I think a lot of those sequences are a lot of fun too. And the pteranodons are a lot of fun too, with that bird cage and stuff. I think that whole sequence is great.
Oh, yeah.
So I really enjoyed that stuff. So I think they do enough different in this movie. But yeah, I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and again, fun adventure mixed with some horror-esque.
Yeah, a little bit
like that. That scene in the cage, and just that kind of tease when you see the door isn't fully latched.
And then coming out of the fog, like it just kind of slowly, like the bird kind of marching kind of out of the fog. It's definitely like a throwback to like a horror sequence. Like it's interesting. Yeah, the way it's kind of fogged out and kind of creepy. It's got this weird atmosphere. And I actually think the scene where the kid Ben gets like taken and carried and like dropped into the nest is kind of horrifying. I can't really explain why, but like it's like, oh, here's your food, and just drops him in there, and then he's getting chased by the little baby ones. Like, it's kind of weirdly creepy to me. So I like that sequence a lot. And yeah, I think Grant, you know, Samuel's good. I mean, he's always good, and he's good in this movie too. He's not given like a ton of new development as far as his character, other than sort of we just see that he'll do anything for his students, you know, he'll do anything to get the funding, you know, even if it means doing something Jurassic Park related. But he's still a good guy, you know, and we kind of feel bad for him because he's not with Ellie. He didn't get it with Ellie, and you know, she moved on and you know, got with another guy and had a kid, and he's kind of seen that it's not attainable anymore, or at least, I mean, we'll talk about Dominion, like where their characters are, but yeah, how it's, you know, he feel like it's kind of passed him by, and he's kind of a loner now, and all he has is his job. So, you know, it's an interesting dynamic, at least kind of checking in and see where he's at.
Yeah, and just to forewarn people, when we get to Dominion, there probably will be spoilers.
No, there will be spoilers. Yeah, we're going to spoil it. So that's why we're building up to it in the video and going chronologically, so that when we get there, if you haven't seen the thing, you can come back and watch it. But yeah. And
I don't know why I laughed, just to bring up the comedy again. I don't know why I laughed so hard at this sequence, but when they find the vending machines,
oh god,
and Willie makes me, she's like, "Does anyone have any quarters?"
Yeah.
And then Billy, or whatever his name is, just
smashes it,
takes some food, gets some for the for Leone's character, and then he tries to hit it with his backpack or whatever, and just bounces back. Like, I don't know why I thought that was as funny as I do. But I was like dying laughing. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
he really is just like some dorky salesman, whatever. All right.
No, I even like the thing with the running gag with the phone, where like they hear the phone thing and they reunite, you know, for the first time, the parents and them, and the phone's still ringing. He's like, "I don't have the phone. You have the phone." And they look over and the Spinosaurus is just standing there, and you hear the phone, and it's just like, "Oh shit! Like, we got to go." Like, I mean, there's some good reveals. I think Joe Johnston knows what movie he's making. You know, like I
Mhm.
think he knows exactly what it is. And again, it's something different, but that's kind of what I like. An entry that feels different from all the other movies. You know, it has a
Yeah.
unique look and feel to it. So I can at least appreciate that again on rewatches. Knowing what I'm getting into. No, I mean, is it at like the top of my ranking list? No, but I don't dislike it either. You know, I like this movie, and I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and just going back to Joe Johnston, he was a visual effects artist on Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, Raiders.
Hmm.
He was the art director also for those for Empire and Raiders. He was the art director for Return of the Jedi and
Mm.
Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, he worked with Spielberg on Always. He was the aerial sequence designer,
Mm.
and probably my favorite fun fact that I'm finding out, he was the designer of the Iron Giant and the
There you
Iron Giant.
go. Hey, there you
He
go.
also did some television effects and production designer. He was the production designer for the two Ewok movies, the Ewok Adventure and
Oh,
the
oh
Ewoks
boy.
in Battle for Endor.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Caravan of Courage, baby. Oh yeah, gotta love it.
yeah, and he actually won best visual, like for best visual effects for Raiders at the Academy Awards.
Mm. So yeah, I knew he had some kind of association with Spielberg and Lucas. He was like a Lucasfilm, you know, Spielberg kind of guy. So yeah, I knew he kind of at least went back with Spielberg. So I'm sure when they wanted to do a third one, I think Spielberg was approached, but he was kind of done with the series. But I think that maybe, you know, he said, "Hey, there's this guy Joe Johnston who's doing some cool things. You know, give him a shot." And I'm sure he leapt at the opportunity. So, you know, and I said there's even some. I think the effects are good in this movie. You know, again, they use some cool animatronics. That sequence where they're hanging from the tree in the airplane, you know, the half an airplane. There's like a real, you know, animatronic Spinosaurus kind of reaching in there. I mean, there's some good
They
stuff
haven't
there.
landed yet.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's some good stuff. You know, I think there's some interesting sequences. So, yeah, I like Jurassic Park 3. Like, I don't think it's like a amazing, but I like it for what it is. I think it's a solid movie.
Yeah, and I think it still feels like a Jurassic Park movie because while
Totally,
Spielberg didn't direct it, he was, executive producer, and I'm sure he was involved,
sure.
in aspects. So, but yeah, no, I really like this one. I think it's good. I think it's a solid ending to this trilogy, this first
Yeah.
trilogy.
Right. Because the next movie would be sort of a reboot, but again, kind of a one that is still in continuity with everything. Yeah, Jurassic World, and man, I remember being so excited for this movie, like because I was again, 2015. I'm solidly a Jurassic Park fan. You know, I've seen all that original trilogy dozens and dozens and dozens of times. I remember the first trailers of just like the park is open and all this stuff. Like I really love those trailers. I was mega hyped for this movie, and I really like Jurassic World a lot. Like this is
Mm-hmm.
still right up there with at least Lost World for me, as far as with the sequels. Yeah, I just love seeing, and I'm an amusement park guy. Like I love amusement parks, so I even just love seeing the inner workings of this park. And now
Mm-hmm.
that it's open, and just again seeing the premise, the park is open, and seeing an actual Jurassic Park fully functional, with all the little inner workings and all the little things you see in amusement parks, your Margaritavilles and your little, gift shops and your interactive exhibits and, fast passes,
Yeah,
wristbands and petting zoos and all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
and they must have been good margaritas because I know we're jumping ahead in the movie a little bit, but
Yeah.
when
Hmm.
the whatever the pterodactyls or whatever they
Yeah.
are come flying up, you see just this
Jimmy
guy like
Buffett.
grab two of them. He grabs two of them off the table as he's running away.
Well,
Like,
that's
make
Jimmy
sure I take
Buffett. That's Jimmy Buffett himself. That's Mr. Margaritaville. Jimmy Buffett doing a cameo. So yeah, he's in the
I
movie.
guessed that the first time. He's like I got
Yeah.
like it. So yeah, they must have been good margaritas.
Uh-huh.
Uh, yeah, I don't think I shared your level of excitement for this coming
Mhm.
back, just
Sure.
probably because I hadn't seen the first
Mm.
two, and I only seen Jurassic Park, and I really liked the movie. But it wasn't until like later on that as
Mm.
I watched more movies, that I just appreciated it for like the technical aspect and all that sort of stuff, like the score. Like before, I was just watching movies to be entertained.
Mhm.
But now like I appreciate Jurassic Park for much more than just an entertaining movie.
Yeah.
Uh, so I didn't, but it was like, oh, cool. Dinosaurs, Chris Pratt, starring in it.
Mhm.
Because like my first introduction to Chris Pratt was actually Star Lord the year before.
Right.
I wasn't a Parks and Rec
I,
guy.
I was a Parks and Rec guy, so I knew him from Parks and Rec, and again, but I think most people, yeah, are with you. They his breakout was definitely Guardians of the Galaxy because he had done bit parts and Zero Dark 30 and things like that, but he wasn't like a super standout. But yeah, this was definitely like his first really big like leading role, other
Mhm.
than Guardians. But yeah, I think he's great in this movie. I really like the Owen character,
Yeah.
and kind of how stoic he is, and he's got a nice level head. He doesn't kind of panic and freak out. He works things through, and his dynamic with Bryce Dallas Howard is fun, and she's kind of this kind of stuck up, sort of, corporate corporate lady who's never
Mhm.
really stepped outside of the office, and has to kind of dip her toes into the real world, or at least the situation. But I like all that stuff, and man, that entire sequence where the kid falls into the raptor cage, and Owen has to kind of rescue him,
Oh yeah.
get him out of there. Like, I love that sequence. I think that's brilliantly filmed. I think all the little pieces of it are great. The way Vincent D'Onofrio is just kind of hanging on the railing, like watching it, just casually because he knows, he's just kind of observing everything. I think that's some great tension. Like, it's one of my favorite sequences in the movie, and I think it's one of my favorite of the franchise too. Like, I love that whole sequence, start to finish.
Yeah, and I think it also the movie also parallels like greed in a way
Hmm.
because like it's when the Indominus
Dominus Rex, presented by
Indominus Rex,
Verizon Wireless.
yeah, presented by Verizon Wireless escapes, like she still is like, no, like let's think about the park first. Let's not
We can
worry
get it
about
under
people's
control. We don't
safety.
have to
Yeah,
panic, everybody. We don't have to
and so
evacuate right now. Like, we'll get it under control. We'll send it for the team. We'll do this. Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
let's not worry about people's safety.
Yeah.
Let's worry about the park and
Mhm.
if this happens, we will get shut down. It's like, yeah, but if it
If
does
people get eaten,
happen,
if people
people are
get
gonna
eaten, that's
die.
that's worse. Yeah, that's way worse for your
Um,
publicity than just evacuating a park. Yeah.
yeah, I think they tackled that really well. Again, I'm agreeing with you on Chris Pratt's character. I think he's great in this movie.
Yeah.
Um, the dynamic that he has with the Raptors, I think is great. And um, Bryce Dallas Howard, like the arc she takes
Mhm.
from just kind of being this corporate. I don't want to use the word stooge, but she's like all about business and
Well, she's just a total corporate person. She's all in on the corporate stuff. It's her life. She doesn't even want to like take a couple of hours to hang out with her nephews. You know what I mean? She's all about business. Pawning her off on the. Or pawning them off on the assistant, you know what I mean, and just like, oh, here's your fast pass, here's your room, here's the assistant, she'll watch you, but I'll see you tomorrow. It's that whole thing of like, she can't even make time, at least a little bit there. But yeah, I like that whole thing. I feel bad for that assistant, by the way. Like, she's not totally, in on watching the guys, but at the same time, she got, it's another job. Like, she got kind of shoved
Mhm.
into that. But like, I don't think she deserves the horrendous death that she gets at the
Yeah,
end. Being like, picked up by the pterodactyl or whatever, then dropped into the mosasaurus. Like, I think that's kind of a horrendous death for
yeah.
somebody that didn't really deserve it. I thought, he could have had other characters, getting that kind of death. I would have liked to see maybe Vincent D'Onofrio get something like that, because I think, he would be a
He
little more
deserved it.
so I like the Maserati character, the kind of owner guy who
Yeah.
unfortunately kind of goes down in the helicopter. But like, I really like his. I think they do a good job of sort of, because he's a new character, but showing that he's kind of trying to model himself after Hammond as far as like spare no expense. I'm not worried about the bottom line, not worried about the money. Like, I want to make sure everybody's having a good time. Like, all the morale is up. All the animals are taken care of and like they're happy. Like I like all that stuff, and he's doing his best to do this helicopter thing, and he tries to be brave, he tries to be a hero, it just doesn't really work out, and he goes down. But I at least appreciate his character, and I've always liked the fact in the first half he's definitely like got a nice presence, and I like him a lot. So I know I've seen that guy before. It's like I'm looking him up, Irfan Khan. I've seen him in some other stuff, but
yeah, I guess looking them up too.
yeah, I guess it's Slumdog Millionaire, but yeah, he's kind of a Bollywood guy, but yeah, I really like him in this movie. Like I wish there was a little bit more of him.
Yeah, I'm looking like maybe it was Slumdog Millionaire, but no, it was the Amazing Spider-Man that I saw him in.
Oh, is he in there? Okay.
Yeah, he plays Dr. Rajit Ratha.
Okay.
So that's probably what. Yeah.
Okay.
And fun fact, he's the voice of Baloo in the remake of The Jungle Book.
Hey, there you go. So he's still in with the kind of Disney folks. All right, nice.
Yeah, I like this. This is the one that this is my number 2 in the franchise right now.
Sure.
But I think it was a great reintroduction, like for new fans, and to go back like the younger generation to be able to go back and watch maybe Jurassic Park for the first time and see the inspiration and for this new trilogy. I think they peaked here.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That I think I really like this reboot, and then just where they've taken the trilogy now that they've completed it. I'm not as I was hopeful for this one. Again, we'll get to it, but I was hopeful that they could bring it back around and wrap it up, especially with Colin Trevorrow like coming back for the finale. I guess it was kind of like it's kind of a similar situation when JJ came back for Rise of Skywalker after Last Jedi. You're like, well, maybe they can salvage something and bring it back, and do something. But yeah, we'll talk about it. But yeah, I do think that the franchise kind of peaked with this, and then it was kind of downhill from here. But I still really like Jurassic World just as a movie itself. And
I like the way it kind of paralleled that first movie too, because you had kind of like that adventure, like obviously in a bigger scale with the park being open and not just a few people going and visiting, but we see that we get that adventure aspect, even though it is confined to a theme park this time, and then kind of those horror-esque elements in the back half. I think it was a great parallel, and had Fallen Kingdom taken the Lost World approach, maybe it would have been better received.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, they kind of do at the beginning, going back to the island, and we'll talk about it. I mean, we might as well just get into it. Like, yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, they kind of do. I like the opening. I want to say like 45 minutes to an hour of Fallen Kingdom, because I actually don't mind the sort of immediate follow-up as far as I like the opening with the Mosasaurus, like, and the T-Rex, like with them trying to get the bones or whatever. Like that first sequence, the opening before the credits, like feels like a horror movie. Like I kind of like it. And it's the one in the rain, and the guy like gets chomped, as he goes up in the helicopter. Like I like all that stuff. And then I don't even mind the follow-up with them, going to the island to try to see what's going on, and they're trying to extract the animals and stuff, like, and while the volcano stuff is going on, like I like all that stuff. I think the movie starts strong, like I dig it as even just a disaster sequence or some good stuff in between there. Basically everything up to that really beautiful sequence where the brachiosaur is like about to die, and he's like like kind of howling as the the volcanic smoke kind of engulfs. Like it's a really beautiful sequence, actually. Really good as the boat thing is kind of going up. And then after that is where it kind of takes a dive for me, because I'm just not as into everything that they get into after that with, all the cloning stuff and like us doing like this black market dinosaur thing, and like I'm just not even on this rewatch, because I rewatched it when me and Henry did it recently, and that was the one I was most curious to go back to, because I saw it in the theater and I hadn't seen it since then, and rewatched it. And again, I liked that first hour. I was surprised at how much I dug kind of that first hour, but man, the back half of this movie is just so wacky and weird that I don't like the directions it goes. I don't know. I mean, some of the sequences in the house are fun, from a almost like a horror element. The way the one raptor is kind of like coming into the bedroom at the end.
Oh yeah.
Horror sequence, like the way it's shot is really cool, and I like some of those sequences. But like the whole like, oh, we got. Is having a laser raptor the most effective weapon on Earth more than like a special ops military team? I don't think so. That you could talk to and communicate with. I just don't understand how that's viable. Like it's just weird. Fallen Kingdom's it's a tale of two movies, and I just don't like the back half of the movie, and where it goes. Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I wanted to rewatch it for this episode.
Yeah.
I didn't.
You just couldn't bring yourself to do it.
Because I remember watching it in the theater, and I remember enjoying the action pieces and everything.
Sure.
But the story just like
it's so weird.
It was like not enjoyable for me. So, like I just while I do enjoy the action, I think some of it's really good. Like I think them driving the truck onto the boat is cool, but other than that, like, it's just a forgettable movie for me. Like, I didn't want to go back to rewatch it, and so I didn't.
There's a reason. Like, I had 4 years to like sit down, and I had the 4K. You know what I mean? It was just sitting there, and it was and I never cracked it open until me and Henry did it, and I had to rewatch it. Like, it's just sitting there.
I've owned this since it came out on Blu-ray.
Does it still have the plastic on it, or no?
It doesn't have plastic on it.
Okay. Right. I think mine did. I think mine actually did until I cracked it open, because I do have a few of those movies over there. But it's just I can't see myself going back to it other than, again, maybe the first half. Like if I watch Jurassic World and I want to see like the quick follow-up, sort of the epilogue to that, almost like how I'll watch like Halloween H2O and like the first 10 minutes of Resurrections, kind of like an epilogue to that. Like I'll watch that. Yeah. It's one of those things with Jamie Lee. But I can't see myself really going back to this for any reason. In particular. So especially to where they then go after this. And I guess we can't delay the inevitable. Let's just get into it, because like we'll kind of breeze through Fallen Kingdom because it's not great. But spoiler alert, let's talk about Dominion. And I know, Jordan, you're gonna watch this. I know you love this movie. I know you do. I'm gonna try to articulate why I was disappointed with it. Okay, I'm going to do the best I can, because I don't hate everything about the movie. I think some of the dinosaur sequences are very good. Again, I think the technical aspects of this movie are good. I don't really have a lot of complaints there. Some of the action set pieces are very strong. I like the way they still use some of the practical dinosaurs, especially in that one cave sequence or the mine sequence, when they're kind of coming out of the wall. There's some good stuff there. There's some really good sequences. The Dilophosaurus callback with them invading the little tube car thing and taking out the guy. Like, that's a great sequence. Like, there's good stuff in the movie. You had such an easy premise that Fallen Kingdom set up. And again, Fallen Kingdom does it well. Like, they release the dinosaurs at the end. You get a little glimpse of them kind of in the world. And it was such an easy setup. Like, have dinosaurs running amok in the world and us trying to deal with it. It's such an easy premise. Such an easy premise. And you could have had, you could have brought back the old crew. And my idea for the movie, if I was in charge, I would have had this thing where what they kind of skip over in the movie seems like the most interesting thing, where you got this company that's like rounding up the dinosaurs and trying to get them in a preserve. It's like, can I watch that? That seems like an interesting thing. Can I watch the teams try to capture these dinosaurs, almost like in Lost World when InGen, again, it makes me go back and appreciate these older movies, Jacob, that sequence where they're rounding up the dinosaurs on that game trail, in Lost World, like with all the cars and like the little nets and all the ropes, and like they're trying to like round them up. Like, it's a cool sequence, as far as like all the stuff they're trying to do to kind of get the dinosaurs. Like, that movie does it better. Again, I think this movie just makes Lost World look much, much better in retrospect. But I would like to see, and you could do it in a way where like maybe Owen, because he has experience, is like the head of the relocation crew, because he's got hands-on training. You know what I mean? He's worked with these dinosaurs. He worked in the park, and he's also the hands-on guy. He's the action guy. And you could have Grant as like a consultant. Maybe he's like the man in the chair. Like bring Grant back as like he knows the dinosaurs, he knows the behaviors, which you've seen in Jurassic Park, like what he thinks the dinosaurs are going to do, but he's not an action guy, so have him like as the man in the chair. You could have Malcolm doing like the political stuff, like trying to sway people to do this, do that, kind of doing the moral conundrums throughout the movie, which is fine, and have Ellie kind of in between somewhere, bring her in again, and Bryce Dallas Howard again could be mixed in somewhere, but maybe have them like globetrotting. Like, oh my God, almost like, do you remember in Pacific Rim, Jacob? Have you seen Pacific Rim?
I have not.
Okay, so there's a thing in Pacific Rim where they have like a kaiju alert every time one pops up, and starts wreaking havoc, and then they ship the robots like off to deal with the problem. Maybe you could have like a dino alert. Where like, oh, okay, there's raptors have been spotted in this situation. Like we need to go, and again, not go to kill them, but like we need to go capture them somehow, relocate them, and again, build up the movie to where you have a building escalation, and maybe there's something they can't deal with, or they all have to converge on one thing. Maybe it's the Indominus Rex, or it's the not the Indominus, but like because he got eaten by the Mosasaur. But you know what I mean, like the T-Rexes right. Or whatever, something that is a little tougher to deal with, or they're kind of evolving, whatever. And have them globetrotting, and then you could have the situations where, oh my God, the Raptors got into an amusement park. Like we got to go like deal with that. Oh my God, they got into a campground. They got into they're in a skyscraper, in New York. You know what I mean? There's Dilophosaurus running around a skyscraper. We got to go contain them. Like that, does that not sound like a more fun movie? Like just dealing like globetrotting, dealing with like, relocation, and then actually in the world, like dealing with the problems and them interacting things. And instead we get Locust World Dominion, which is my problem.
Yeah.
I don't understand this. I don't understand the logic there.
The dinosaurs in this movie felt like an afterthought.
They are an afterthought in the movie. That's my point.
When I think of a Jurassic movie, I want dinosaurs to be like front and center. Like that scene where they're chasing Chris Pratt to the airport. I think that scene's awesome.
That scene's great. And again, it's them running around. We get a little bit of them running around the world, eating random people on the streets, and if we had more of that type of stuff, like, oh my God, they got loose in some city, and they're causing havoc. They're eating people. They're knocking over cars. They're doing this, that, and the other. Again, it makes me appreciate the Lost World sequence a little bit more when he's slamming into buses and eating people on the streets, which is kind of what we wanted to see. And that sequence is good. And again, a lot of those sequences are good in a vacuum, but in the broader context of like this kidnapping plot and more of the cloning stuff, which is weird, with like the mom having her own person as a daughter, like her as a daughter is weird. Yeah. Like I texted my buddy Dagan. I don't know if you've seen the movie The Stupids, or but like there's a sequence where he sings this old song called "I'm My Own Grandpa." That's what it reminded me of. So it's like the mom is her own daughter.
I've heard the song.
It's her old Ray Stevens song. It just reminded me because she's like her own mom, her own daughter type of thing, because it's like a daughter, but it's also her. Like it's weird. Like all that stuff is strange. And again, with the locust thing being and like corporate espionage, which again we've tackled a little bit of that in the original film with Nedry, but it's like a side plot. Like Nedry's doing corporate espionage, trying to smuggle the embryos out, and it's kind of, but it's like it's not the main plot. It's like the side plot that sort of is the catalyst to the bigger plot, because he obviously shuts down the park, and then all the havoc, and then he exits the movie. But it's like we're doing Mission Impossible shit with like Grant and Ellie, like breaking into places, and like what are we doing? Like, are they the right people for that? Why couldn't Malcolm just leak all this shit himself? He's already working there. It's weird. I just, there's so many baffling decisions in this movie, Jacob, that I just don't understand. So yeah,
I'm with you. I wanted to like
I really wanted to like this movie. I'm sorry. I don't go ahead. I was gonna say I really wanted to like this movie way more than I did.
No, I'm with you. Like I really enjoyed the first one, and then the second one, like, that's not great. But like at least the action's cool. So maybe having the original trilogy cast, those main three come back. Maybe that'll up the movie for me. But even then, like we don't see the cast interact with each other until like the last half hour of the movie.
Yeah.
And like it almost felt like we were watching two separate movies, and we were just
Yeah.
jumping in from this one, and the only thing that was connecting them was the girl.
Right. Yeah.
And it felt disjointed. It didn't. I didn't like the plot. I didn't like that it was focused on locusts and
Well, you know what I said? I said to Henry, it feels like a Bond plot, like a James Bond villain plot, of like, oh, I'm going to release these locusts and kill the food supply so they have to eat my food, and I'm the only monopoly food person. It's just like, it feels like some global domination corporate thing. And again, it's so far from like the original movie. And I know it's not the original movie, but like, it's so far away from that. It's like, what are we doing, dude? Are we doing a Bond movie or a Mission Impossible movie, or are we doing a Jurassic Park movie, where it should be about dinosaurs wrecking havoc somewhere and us trying to deal with it? And again, if you had done like this task force thing with the original cast and the new cast working together to safely relocate dinosaurs or deal with threats, maybe they have to kill a couple of dinosaurs and they don't want to, and you could have the scenes like that where he doesn't want to because they're just animals, but we have to make tough decisions because they're killing people, in real situations. And that's where you could have them hopping around, jumping into different. And I thought we were going to get that, Jacob. Did you see those prologue things they put out, like the one day in the campground with the trailer that they put out like a year before the movie? It was like a little short movie.
Yes. Yes. I think, yeah.
And then they put out the other prologue at like the drive-in theater, where it was like the T-Rex at the drive-in theater behind the screen, and then like he comes through the screen. And I was like, if this what's the movie's going to be, like a bunch of these sort of short vignette type of things of like, again, dinosaurs in real situations, like, oh my God, holy shit, like we're trying to watch this movie and all of a sudden there's a fucking T-Rex out there, it's going to eat us. Like, that's what I wanted to see in this movie. It was so easy. And those two things were almost misleading to where it's like, oh, the movie is going to be like that. Sweet. And it's like, yeah, have surfers at the beach and oh my God, there's a mosasaurus and he just ate a boat, and like, holy shit, like, or he attacks a cruise ship or something. I mean, whatever you want to do, you can do crazy shit like that, and I'm down for it. I'm down for all of that. I'm down for the ones in the Lost World that eat Peter Stormare, like the little compies, like the tiny dinosaurs. I mean, you could have them like, I don't know, just like invading anything, like invading a playground or something, and like attacking kids, like not killing them, but like, holy shit, like, oh, they're so cute. Oh my God, shit. Like
they could almost be like the gremlins of the Jurassic
Park. Yeah, you could have like a gremlin sequence with the little compies, and like we gotta round them up in a net and like get them out of here. You know what I mean? And again, work to that goal of like, you could have that facility in Italy or whatever that they're like moving them all to, like, and we got to figure out ways to do this safely and eliminate this threat, but not by killing them. I just think like it's so easy, and I think my movie would just be way better and way more fun. And again, would it be on the same level intellectually as Jurassic Park or whatever? But like, I didn't need it to be. Just be a fun movie that works on the premise of the film that initially was. Dinosaurs in the world with people. Like outside of this park. So easy, and they just I don't understand. I don't get it. I never will. I don't understand the logic there. Maybe Trevorrow will come out and talk about it. Maybe it was like a studio thing, but even then, I don't see how you could think this locust and espionage plot is better than what that movie could have been. So,
no, and I did like the performance of the guy in charge. I can't think of his name, but he would played Peter Parker's dad in The Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, I'll look him up right now. Yeah, but he's playing Dodgson, the character from the original movie, which again is a nice callback. I like it. Kind of bringing back that other company, like that's fine. Like you could have a dynamic with them doing that, and then like there's an evil company that's taking them for their own personal reasons, like not trying to relocate them, but again, you could almost follow up with them doing the black market stuff, but like maybe they have to go stop them, because they're trying to do the right thing and the other corporate place is doing the wrong thing, like that's fine. You can have that dynamic, but again, maybe they have different methods of doing it that are inhumane or whatever. There's things you could do with that. But you just, there's a way you could work that in. But I just don't understand this James Bond villain plot. Like it's just so weird. It's just not Jurassic Park. It's just not.
And while I was excited to see Samuel Lorder and Jeff Goldblum
They've got
back.
nothing to do. They've got nothing to do in this movie.
You could have recast them
Mm-hmm.
as anyone. Like anyone could have played the Laura Dern character. It not obviously not as the same name, but in the same role, and the movie wouldn't be changed. I think they were just shoehorned in there to get people excited, to ensure that this maybe was a financial success in the pandemic era. But as you know, Top Gun Maverick has proven, if you're a really good movie and people talk highly of you, people will go see it. I mean, it's made $1 billion. I mean, we go back to like Spider-Man. Like if you make that was fan service done right.
Right.
I think this one, maybe they were just shoehorned in, like Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom bombed critically. Of course, it was a financial success, but it was a critical failure. It was like 47% on Rotten Tomatoes or something like that, and I'm sure the audience score is somewhere around there. So like, well, we need something to entice the fans to come and see this one as well.
Sure.
Let's bring these guys back. I mean, Jeff Goldblum was kind of on a high from. I think people really enjoyed his character in Ragnarok. I'm not sure how you feel about that. But
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. Well, I mean, me and Henry will talk about that when we do Taika Waititi next week. But yeah, yeah. I mean, well, I don't make my secrets known. I'm not a fan of Ragnarok, but I will say he's one of the better things about the movie. But yes, like, well, he's also got that Disney show, that Disney Plus show, where he's like just going around like exploring the world, just doing, interacting with things. But he's just a fun guy to watch, anyways. Yeah. And I think again,
he's killing the commercials right now.
He's fine in the movie. I mean, he slides right back into the role. He's fine. His scenes are pretty good. When he's doing the corporate thing and interacting with this stuff, but it's just wasted characters. That there's like that one henchman guy at the beginning who does the kidnapping, but there's also this Santos, like literally she's like, putting her things to, putting her hands together, and she's like, well, deliver the dinosaurs to me, like that Santos. Like, you could have had those characters just be one character. Like, why do we need two? Why can you have the same character do both parts? I just don't understand that. There's just like really weird stuff. Again, Bond movie stuff. She's like a Bond henchman. Like, what is going on? Like, why do we need these characters? It's not like Wayne Knight in the original was like, I'm evil. He's just doing it for the money. Like, he's just doing it as a side hustle, to get some money and get out of there. Like, it's just these very strange decisions in this film. And, I know some people love it. That's fine. If you love this movie, more power to you, because I don't get it. But like, if you do, awesome. Like, I don't know if I'll ever understand it. Maybe I'll rewatch it and have something for it, but I can't imagine even going back to this movie, kind of like Fallen Kingdom, and like actively rewatching this movie. I will still go back and watch Jurassic World. I will still go back and watch Lost World. I will still go back and watch Jurassic Park. Even Jurassic Park 3, I'll put it on occasionally and watch that. But I cannot think of any real reason to go back and watch this movie. Like, I don't know.
I mean, I'll YouTube the chase sequence.
Yeah,
because I mean, I think that's the best scene in the movie. But other than that, like, there's really nothing about this movie that is too memorable for me. I like the action. I mean, I'm always going to enjoy watching dinosaurs fight each other.
Well, there's other individual sequences.
That felt like we were more focused on the human characters than these two giant dinosaurs that are fighting each other.
Yeah, it's like in the background. Like, we don't even see that. And it's a cool thing because you got the Wolverine dinosaur is what I called him, with the fucking claws, and he's like blind or whatever. Like, that sequence with Bryce Dallas Howard had some good tension, where she's like having to like duck under the water, and he's like kind of trying to scoop her up and stuff. Like, that was a good sequence. Again, good sequences in a vacuum, like in a vacuum of like, if you took them out of the movie and just watched this as a sequence, it's a pretty good sequence. But a lot of the stuff in the bigger context of the movie is just like either pointless or just kind of doesn't have a whole lot of effect on the plot, or it's just unnecessary. I think, as much as that sequence is good in that one chase sequence with Owen, it's almost unnecessary to the movie too. We could have just jumped right to the Italy stuff. Like, I mean, it's like this stopover for like, and we're doing weird shit where like they have like a Star Wars cantina where they're like eating fucking dinosaurs and shit, and like having like, fights, like gladiator fights with dinosaurs and betting on them, like cockfighting. It's just like, what are we doing? Like, this is so strange. And it's like, you could have had that black market thing again in the movie I'm proposing, sort of, but not just be as over the top with it. Maybe somebody just wants it as a pet or something, and they want to pay $20 million to have a Dilophosaurus pet. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, just, weird shit like that. You can still play into that in the follow-up, but this movie's just weird. This movie's just weird, man. And it's just disappointing. Yeah.
You just made me think of a good question I'm going to submit for Battleground.
Sure.
What is the best unnecessary scene in a movie?
The best, like, what do you mean as far as like the best scene in an unnecessary movie?
It has no bearing on the plot. Like, if it was cut out of the movie doesn't change, but it's still damn entertaining.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I'd have to do some research on that one. Like, the best scenes. Well, I could almost say the best scene in a bad movie or whatever that's great is like the opening credits of like Origins Wolverine is like pretty fucking great, but then like the rest of the movie kind of sucks. But like in a vacuum, all that stuff is awesome. Things like that. I would argue, but it's like, this movie's just strange, man. And I don't know if I'll ever go back to it. I might at some point, just take a revisit maybe a year or two down the line just to look at it again and see if I can get any enjoyment out of it. But it's just to me, it's just a wasted opportunity. It was such a wasted opportunity to go on the premise of what Fallen Kingdom set up. So, yeah. Yeah.
This should tell you my overall thoughts on the movie. So on Letterboxd, I am keeping a list of every movie from 2022 that I have seen. So far, I'm only at 25. I need to really catch up on some big ones. Right. But right now, I have it ranked behind a Kevin James Taylor Lautner movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah. If I would rank it somewhere, I mean, like, I'd probably rank like X higher, like that weird horror movie I saw called X. Like, I would rank it behind that.
I need to watch that one. So I bought it. I need to watch it.
Yeah, because that movie's better. That movie's better. What else came out this year? Top Gun's definitely better. Like, that's my number one so far this year. Like, Top Gun's way better. I've seen that movie.
That one. Like, my number one of the year so far is it's still Hustle.
Okay. But Top Gun Maverick is awesome. Like, you want to see like a really good movie that like follows up on a legacy thing and like does it well, and it's just damn entertaining. I've seen it 3 times. Like, I love Top Gun. I think it's great. So yeah, that's my number one with Bullet. I'm trying to think what else came. Yeah, because I'm way behind too. I've probably only seen, as far as like new 2022 movies, maybe like 20 or 25. I'm kind of around you because I've only been to the theater maybe 8 or 9 times this whole year, honestly, maybe. And then I've seen some stuff on streaming or whatever, but yeah, I'm a little behind too. But we'll I'm having to be picky, man, because traffic to my theater sucks. Right. So I got to be picky. Like, when I went to see Jurassic World Dominion, it's like I got on the road and there was like a traffic jam, and it took me like 45 minutes to go what usually takes me 15 with no traffic, and then I watched this 2-hour and 40-minute movie, and then like I had to get 40 minutes home, and it was like a 4 or 5 hour affair, when it's all said and done. So I have to be picky about when I go to the theater. Like, it's something. So I've seen Elvis.
That's the other thing with
I would rank Elvis above this. I saw Elvis.
Okay, I would rank Elvis.
I would rank Elvis above Dominion for sure. Yeah.
I've even got the newest Hotel Transylvania movie above Jurassic World. I've got the Cheaper by the Dozen remake.
Probably the Chip and Dale movie.
Oh, I love the Chip and Dale movie. That's actually my top 10 right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch that Predator movie that comes out. I'll probably have that higher as long as it's decent. That Prey movie or whatever. I have almost every movie I've seen so far this year. I'm trying to think if I've probably seen a worse movie overall like this year. I probably have, but
I have 2 below it. The 2 that I have below it are the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh yeah, that movie sucks.
And I would watch another Netflix movie called Choose or Die.
Okay.
Interesting premise.
Fair enough.
Terrible execution.
Okay. Okay, so I would agree that Texas Chainsaw movie sucks. So I would definitely rank Jurassic World above that for
And,
sure.
and I think they had such an interesting premise too, with like this remake, like of them being in this town and not being like
Oh
this
yeah,
like
yeah,
farm. Like I thought where they were going it had potential, and
yeah.
they just didn't deliver.
Yeah, I was trying to see because I watch a lot of it. I haven't seen Morbius yet, so maybe that might be on the fence.
I
But yeah, we'll see.
I, I told you before how I feel about Morbius is on like the Venom level for
Gotcha.
me, where
I
you're
like
either
Venom
gonna
though.
love
See,
it.
I like the two Venom movies, so
Yeah,
maybe I'll love it. I don't know. But yeah, I would. Who knows? I okay. The Firestarter remake is worse than Dominion. I'll give it that.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, it's
But
worse. The King's Man I watched for the thing.
oh right,
I, that movie was boring. So I would rank Dominion above The King's Man. So I'll give it that. It's so Dominion's better than a few movies I've seen this year. So, but it's
yeah.
still
I
in
think
the
just what
back half.
brings it down is just how disappointing it is.
It's just it is again. It's the wasted opportunity. It's the wasted potential. I didn't have a lot of high hopes for, even as much as I'm a Kingsman fan. A Kingsman prequel I was not as into as if they had done like a Statesman follow up. And
Yeah,
in that stratosphere. But like, yeah, as far as, it's just disappointing again because of the premise and the wasted opportunity of what they had, what they could have done, and how easily they could have. Would it have been a Marvel masterpiece like the original Jurassic Park? Maybe not, but you could have made a really fun movie that follows up on the premise, that has them running around, the country or the globe, like dealing with dinosaur problems, with people, interacting with people in different situations, and it would have been so easy, and it would have at least been entertaining as hell. And you could have again brought back those characters in different roles for that. That's fine, and then and had a lot of fun with that premise, but they just don't. It's Locust again. I will continue to call it Locust World Dominion. That's what I will continue to call it. And, people at work see it, and I go, "Oh, you saw Locust World Dominion? How was that?" Like I talk about it all the time. That's my new title for it. And that's what I'm going to call it.
yeah. It's just it's disappointing, and if this is where the franchise ends, it's kind of a sour note to go out on. But unless they can reboot it or continue it with a really interesting premise and people that care. I think it's best to just let this go. Maybe continue. I know they have animated series like on Netflix or something.
The Camp Jurassic thing or whatever.
Yeah.
And actually Jen Kemp has said on one of our tournament fights after show that she really likes that show. Like that show is pretty good. I have not seen it, but a lot of people say it has a cult following right now. Like there's people who dig it. So I would probably watch it, and I would probably think it's better too than this movie. So, but yeah, I don't know where you go with the franchise from here, Jacob. It's interesting if you go anywhere. I don't want to see like a remake of the original. That's for sure.
No.
I don't want them there. But then again, Spielberg's pretty good about not letting people, as long as he's alive, remake his movies. Because there definitely would have been, if Spielberg wasn't around, there would have been a Jaws remake by now. Like literally called Jaws. Like there absolutely would be. There would be a Back to the Future remake by now, which there hasn't been. But I know he didn't direct that, but he's a big producer of that movie, so he's not letting that happen. He's got enough clout to where he can put the kibosh on shit like that. But yeah,
I know. Like speaking of Back to the Future, just to go on a tangent real quick, I know I probably shouldn't want to see a remake of that, but when I saw like that fan or whatever it was, like of Robert Downey Jr. and Tom Holland, I was like,
no,
maybe it could work. Like a little bit of me was like, maybe, but no, I agree. Like that one, this one, like there's movies that, like if we were doing a top 5 movies that shouldn't be remade, like Jurassic Park and Back to the Future, probably 1 and 2.
Yeah,
no, they're nearly perfect movies. Let's be honest.
Yeah. So, again, an interesting franchise where I like most of the entries, a majority of them, because I like 4 out of the 6.
Yep, I'm there with you.
But but it probably should have ended with Jurassic World, as far as like just being like this legacy sequel, and kind of a follow up. And
then this is why dinosaurs and people don't work.
This is why it still doesn't work, even with all the technology, all the security, all the precautions. It still doesn't work, and why it's a bad idea. And we would have learned our lesson all over again. Had I could forgive Fallen Kingdom had Dominion lived up to the promise. You know what I mean? I could forgive that if they had brought it back around and it had delivered on the premise. I could forgive that because there's movies where Again, No Way Home made me appreciate a little bit more of the arc that the first two did, even though I'm still not a fan of those first two. But like it kind of brought it around, and like as far as the character arcs and stuff, and maybe when I go now to watch the complete trilogy, like one after another, I can appreciate that. So there's movies that can do that. But this was sort of a Rise of Skywalker type situation where it was just like kind of a mess, and I wish it was better than what I wish I liked it more, than I do. And again, I'm happy for people like you, Jordan. I get that you like it and it's fun. I get it, but I'm just not there with it. I'm just not there. I'm not there, and I don't know if I ever will be. So.
Yeah, and we will never knock people for liking movies.
Yeah,
that
I can not understand it, but I can also say like I'm happy for you that you love it. I will always say like I'm happy that you get more out of it than I do, but I will still be baffled at it sometimes, in certain situations. So that's all.
I think it's apparent on our show. Like one of my favorite movies is Sweeney Todd.
Oh sure, yeah, and again,
and we have talked like it's not for you.
It's just not for me.
Understand.
Yeah, I get why you love it. I get you love the production design, you love the performances, you love the look of the movie, the setting, the score, all that stuff. Like you get it. It's just not for me, and that's perfectly fine. There are plenty of movies. Studio Ghibli is not for me, but I won't knock people who love it because I see why they love it. But yeah, I will never knock people for enjoying that because we're all nerdy about something, and there's people who love those movies, and that's great. It's just not for me. This movie is a little bit of a different situation because like Jurassic Park is for me. But like I just don't like this movie. But like again, if you get something out of it that I don't, I'm happy for you. And I wish I could understand that or came from that perspective. But yeah, it just didn't happen. So so kind of a disappointing one again when you're talking about them chronologically and when we're ranking them like to end on this note, at least for the two of us. So I almost wanted to try to bring Jordan on so he could kind of explain it, or try to convince us.
Yeah, we discussed that.
But even Henry on the ranking show we did, he had this one at number 2, and I was like baffled. Like even when I was listening to him, I was like, I just don't understand. I don't see I'm not seeing what you're seeing. You know what I mean? Like I'm just not. So I don't know. Like there's definitely a split between this movie. I think there always will be. But
if it was called something else besides, Jurassic, maybe if it was just, but I mean, it's tied to the franchise, and I think when you're
can't ignore that,
like when like the end of Fallen Kingdom did, or even the those teasers like you had mentioned earlier did, and you didn't get that, like you're gonna be disappointed. Like
I just can't help it.
It even brings Fallen Kingdom down for me because I think the end of that movie promised something, and then like now the end of that movie just really doesn't mean anything.
And what we got was a news montage, 4 minutes of like glimpses of that world, and you're like, no, I want to see more of that. I want to see more of that. I want to see more of that. I want to see more of the Mosasaurus messing up boats, and the deadliest catch thing that they show for like 2 seconds. Yeah,
by 2 hours.
Yeah, expand that portion. I want to see that. I don't want to see this. Like I want to see that.
Then who knows? Maybe this is the 4th movie in the franchise.
Well, it's like, it's like, what I can also compare it to? It's like, in Crystal Skull, where it's like, or have you seen Crystal Skull? I'm sorry, okay, gotcha. Okay, so I mean, the reputation of Crystal Skull, so I don't think I'm like, but there's a sequence where like it's not even a sequence. There's like a dialogue thing where there's like this debriefing thing, and they're talking about how there's a jump in time from Last Crusade to King Crystal Skull, and they skip over like World War II like altogether because it's in the 50s now, and when they're talking about like all these spy adventures that he was having as like a spy for the Allies in World War II. And you're like, oh, can I just watch that movie instead of like Indiana Jones doing like spy adventures during World War II, in the middle of it, instead of watching like this 50s, alien movie. Can I watch that instead? That's kind of what it is. You're like, no, I want to watch that movie. I want to see more of that. So that's what it is. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm overall positive on the franchise. It's just got a final 2 entries that are disappointing. But overall, the franchise is a good one. You can watch the first 4 and quit, and I think you'd be okay. But these final 2, they do exist, and if you get enjoyment out of them, good on you. They're not for us.
Oh.
So, which is weird because usually our opinions on movies aren't always this similar. But
Yeah,
on the Jurassic franchise, we agree.
yeah, totally. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but yeah, we'll move on and we'll kind of give everybody a preview of what's to come. Yeah, as far as immediately, next week or 2 weeks, whenever it happens. I know Jacob's got a kind of a job situation he's working out and some scheduling things. So yeah, so again, that's why you hit that bell, because you never know when we're going to go. We try to stay consistent, but we do what we can, and we might need the extra time since we kind of did this show later, to prep for our next show. So we might go in about a week and a half or 2 weeks. So we'll see. But our next show, when we get to it, will be an idea I came up with that I think is kind of fun. It's going to be a director blind spot show. So essentially, and we alluded to it earlier, one of Jacob's, but we're each going to pick 5 directors that either we're really into or kind of really getting into, or want to see more of, and filling in some gaps, so maybe some gaps in movies we've been wanting to see. These are all going to be first time watches, not as far as like I've seen all the movies Jacob is watching except for one, but like right. But as far as there'll be first watches to him, and same with me. So yeah, we'll get into it and give everybody a preview of the ones we picked. I went a little older because I've seen all the sort of current directors, most of their stuff. So I went a little more on the old school one, but you've got some ones you've been filling in. So why don't you, I have the list in front of me if you don't have it, but
yeah, no, I think I remember. Yeah. So for Cronenberg, right? I'm going to go because I don't think I've seen any of his. So I'm going to go with The Fly, the
Goldblum. Speaking of Goldblum,
one, this one.
Yeah,
I love that poster too. Like that.
Oh,
that
it's
cover
great.
Art.
Awesome.
That's amazing.
And that box set is great. That Scream Factory box set is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
really Walmart. Nice. They got some good stuff sometimes.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, for Cronenberg, I'm doing that one. I'm doing Tim Burton. I have seen every Tim Burton movie except for Big Eyes, so I will be checking that one out. And I think I need to get on that. I might be leaving Netflix soon.
Oh yeah, we'll look at that. Well, hopefully you got till the end. Hopefully you got till the end of July. Maybe it's like one of those situations.
Yeah. I'm going with Carpenter, and I'm going Big Trouble in Little China. I've not seen that one. For Spielberg, I'm going. We're cheating on that one because why not? We're going to do the two Indiana Jones sequels. Last Crusade and Temple of Doom, and then Taxi Driver for Martin
you're
Scorsese.
doing Taxi Driver, for Scorsese, because he's still working today, and he's a big director. I'm also doing a Scorsese.
One coming this year too. I'm looking forward.
I know, I'm looking forward to seeing.
Hopefully, it doesn't get delayed.
Yeah, he's got the movie with both De Niro and DiCaprio together in that one. His two kind of go-to guys.
Flower Moon, I believe it's called.
Yeah, Brendan Fraser's in that movie, which I'm excited about. So I'm a big fan of, my mummy love, man. I love me some Brendan. So, but yeah, I also went with some of my 5. I also went with a Scorsese because I've seen most of them, but I blind bought it. Mostly this was sometimes an excuse for me to bust out my Blu-rays, and I kind of worked out the show backwards. But that's okay. But I come up with fun premises to do it. But I'm going to see The Last Temptation of Christ with Willem Dafoe, which I've never seen. So that's going to be the one I'm watching for that one. I've been really into Billy Wilder lately, kind of because of Henry. So I'm going to watch The Apartment with Jack Lemmon. So yeah, we'll talk about that. That'll be fun. Coppola, I'm high on Coppola right now because of the Godfathers and Apocalypse Now, but I've never seen The Conversation, his other 70s movie that he made that I've heard is really good with Gene Hackman. So I'm excited to sit down and watch that one. I've heard good things. And then, I'm cheating for one other one, kind of like you. I'm doing a double, but just because they kind of relate to each other. So for John Ford, an old school director, I'm going to do The Searchers and The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance as like kind of a John Wayne Western double feature. But I'm doing a third John Wayne movie by another director, by Rio Bravo, by Howard Hawks, who directed that one. But that's one of Tarantino's favorite movies, so I'm excited to kind of jump into that. He's a big fan of Rio Bravo. And again, I've been on a Western kick the last 4 or 5 years. I love the Clint Eastwood Westerns. I've been watching a lot of spaghetti Western stuff, Lee Van Cleef, a lot of Italian Westerns, So I'm just I'm not as big on John Wayne stuff, but I'm trying to. So that's kind of like why I'm jumping into some of these, because these are kind of his big ones, his big classic ones that people talk about a lot. So I at least want to watch the really good ones that are acclaimed. So yeah, these three are high up on that list. So I'll dip my toes in there and see if I like it. If it's not for me, it's not for me. Well, yeah, we'll talk about that. But yeah, and as far as yours go, the only one I haven't seen is Big Eye. So if I have time to squeeze it in, I'll squeeze it in. So yeah, I'll watch that too because I haven't seen that one. But yeah, that I've seen all yours, so we can have a conversation about those. I love The Fly. You know how much I love The Fly.
Oh yeah.
Fan of that movie, so I can talk about that. I love the indie movies, and Big Trouble in Little China is a lot of fun. Taxi Driver, so and yeah, so we'll have a little conversation about that. It should be fun. So yeah, it might not be as early as this Saturday, just because cramming all those movies in might be a little tricky with some of our other shows. Right. So it might be another week just because we kind of started this one, but we'll try to get back on track. So if this show ends up being just because of the personal situations a kind of every other week show, so be it. But we'll do our best. If we can do an easy topic and then slide into it, we will. But I think the one after that we want to do is kind of a lengthy one too. So we might space that one out as well. That's the decades one that I'll talk about later.
Oh right, yeah.
The decades genre one because that's going to be like 7 movies a piece. So we need time to watch these movies, people. We got lives, so I can watch like a movie a day, but I also have Henry's show and I do Battleground. I got to prep for sometimes, and we got other tournament fights or tier ranker fights where I want to fill in some gaps. So we watch a lot of stuff. So sometimes it's hard to cram.
I'm actually catching up on some matches, some wrestling matches.
You got to watch the wrestling matches.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just go into a shameless plug because it's on the channel. This Thursday, hopefully this Thursday, the Lonely Marks will be doing our top 10 matches of the year so far, and probably a quick Money in the Bank review. It was only 6 matches. So
if I had done my serious picks that I wanted to do, I would have won. I'll just say that because I might have gotten 5 out of the 6. So if I had done my serious picks, and then it would have been funny to get them all right for a show I wasn't even going to be on.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah,
I'm not the 2 matches I got wrong. Like the women's Money in the Bank match, I wasn't surprised.
Sure.
Any of the ones that we picked, I could have seen winning, but
yeah,
we'll get more into it on the show. But I'm happy for Liv Morgan and that she's finally a champion. Like. She deserves it. The crowd obviously is behind her, so
yeah, totally.
It's a good moment for her. But yeah, we'll be doing that Thursday. Top 10 matches of the year so far. Maybe even one of them was from Money in the Bank.
So I'll sit that one out, but I'm excited to listen to you guys because I'll get some suggestions for matches I need to go back and watch. So I'm excited for that. To always get some recommendations. So I'll sit because I just haven't seen enough of stuff this year, just overall to kind of make a list. So I'm kind of I'm the fourth wheel. I don't know if that's a thing. I know third wheel's a thing, but like I'm kind of the fourth wheel that occasionally shows up on the Lonely Marks. So I'm kind of the casual fan that if the topic fits, I'll join in with you guys. But I enjoy listening even if I'm not on there. So I'll listen to you guys and get some recommendations. So
I mean, we're floating some ideas that maybe you can be a part of if you're paying attention to the chat.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely down for draft stuff or anytime we do like a retro review to tie into something. I mean, we'll definitely do some SummerSlam stuff when that comes around. As far as we'll pick, I'm sure we'll pick a retro SummerSlam show to review and just do something like that. We're going to do our fantasy SummerSlam draft, which will be fun, kind of what we did for WrestleMania and all that. So we'll do things like that I'll definitely join you guys on. But if you guys do a show where it's just like a SummerSlam preview or just kind of recapping some stuff, I'll just follow along. But yeah, we got some good stuff. And then as far as this show, like I said, we got the blind spot thing for the next show. I'll just say the next show, like not necessarily next week, but whenever we get around to the next show, I've got this decades genre thing that we'll expand on that show that for our next idea after that. And I've got some other ideas. We're going to do something for Jacob. We're going to do a musical show. So we will showcase either favorite musicals or first time watches, whatever. We're going to each pick some musicals to watch and talk about. So we'll do that for him. And then maybe he'll indulge me with another horror franchise or something, kind of as a give and take.
I mean, I've got some here and I know there's some on streaming too. So I have like the first 8 Friday the 13th movies here. I've got the entire I think obviously we can do this one later, but doing a Halloween show leading up to Halloween Ends would be fun.
Of course, yeah. Well, we'll definitely do that in October, or doing yeah, we'll pick another franchise that we'll kind of dive into and talk
Shoot,
about. So,
October might just be a scary month overall. We could always
well,
do
we
that.
could do, we could each pick some maybe, a movie from each decade to watch for the first time or something, horror movies, or maybe we each pick movies for each other to watch or something, things like that. We'll figure some out. Yeah, we'll do some scary movie stuff when we get there.
We even do like
Yeah.
a lighthearted Halloween movie episode. That's all. That'd be fun. But
Oh,
that's
sure.
that's
Yeah,
like three
yeah.
months away. So
Oh yeah, yeah. So yeah, we're gonna do that. We'll talk Tarantino's filmography at some point because you want to
yeah,
fill in some gaps on that. So we'll
got a
definitely
few.
we'll do the same thing as this. We'll kind of just go chronologically and talk about the movies, and that'll give you a reason to do that. So yeah, there's all kinds of different ideas we want to do on here. So and I'm always coming up with, because I listen to movie podcasts and stuff, and sometimes when I hear an idea of something like that we can work into our show, I kind of do
Yeah.
that. That's where I got the genre decade thing from that we'll talk about. So I
Mm.
kind of got an idea from another thing, kind of backtracked it. So yeah,
That's how I came up with the alphabet idea for the Lonely
yeah,
Marks
yeah,
podcast.
totally.
I was watching. It's not even a podcast. It was a YouTuber who plays 2K, and he does universe mode, and he was like, but I can only pick one wrestler per letter. I was like, oh, that'd be a fun draft idea.
I think me and you could almost do a separate draft thing on here and maybe bring in one or two other people and do like a Hollywood draft if we were drafting a studio.
Oh, interesting.
Like if you had your own studio and you had to draft like directors and actors and
Composers
different,
and-
yeah,
yeah.
composers, like, and you had like maybe like 25 slots and you got to draft some directors and draft some actors and draft some, because then you would have to draft like character actors, like side people, you draft some
Right.
comedy
Okay,
people,
yeah.
some action people, draft a composer or two. You got to draft
Oh, that's a great idea.
I think we could do like a Hollywood draft, that would be kind of fun. So yeah.
All right. Well, we'll get some people in on that. If you're listening and that intrigues you, even if you're watching on the replay, if that
Yeah.
intrigues you, let us know. I'm
So we
instantly
could
intrigued by that idea.
and host that on this show, kind of like we do the wrestling stuff on Lonely Marks, and maybe do a Hollywood draft. I think that would be fun.
That I
So
love that idea.
yeah. So we got all kinds of ideas we're coming up with. I jot them all down in a note app, so I've got them all kind of written down. And every time I think of stuff at work or whatever. So yeah. But got some good stuff coming up, man. We have a good time on the show, even if it's a sort of a bi-weekly thing rather than a weekly thing. We do what we can. We have a lot of fun.
Right.
So I'm always excited to do this.
Yeah, and me too. And join us tomorrow. Well, not me. I won't be on the episode, but they will be doing a tournament fights versus of Seinfeld characters versus Friends characters. Thursday we'll be doing the Lonely Marks, and maybe this weekend, if we can squeeze these movies in, we'll do our director blind spots episode. I know it won't be Saturday. I have a friend's bachelor party to go to on Saturday, and it's more of a, well, I mean, it's not necessarily a bachelor party where it's an extended game night that we're just starting earlier.
Well, maybe it'll be like next Monday or something. You know what I mean?
something
We'll
like
see.
that.
We'll figure out a day. Whenever our schedules line up in a week or a week and a half or 2 weeks, whatever it is, we'll just do the show and and we'll figure that out. So, and once we've watched all the movies, obviously, because we need any time to watch them, maybe we'll just be like, hey, where are you at on your director
Right.
watches? How we do it, and be like, oh, I got 2 more to knock off, whatever. And I just want to mention for Let's Rake stuff that I talked about with Henry, we had to call an audible because we were going to do Taika Waititi, and then we realized Thor doesn't come out till this week. So it was like, we got to wait to include that in the rankings. So we're going to do a quickie, just easy one that it was fun to do. So time traveling duos, we're going to do another versus one, Back to the Future versus Bill and Ted. So 3-on-3 and see where we rank them all together.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My number one is obvious, but after that, it's like
after that's a toss up. It's a toss up after that. So that'll be those will be fun to talk about. Easy. I've seen all those movies plenty of times, so that'll be a easy, quick one to talk about. So But that's it.
And I'll just shout out real quick. Also, I do a lot of stuff over on Jordan Owen's channel as well. Movie trivia. I'm the current Pixenless champion. Longest reigning because, unfortunately for me, I won it right before he moved. He has landed safely in Arizona, so he should be getting back to it soon. I'm glad he got there safely. And he and I we also do countdowns on his channel. We did a Robin Williams countdown, and we will be doing our top 10 of the year so far. I know I've already spoiled my number one, but I also kind of spoiled that it was my favorite when we reviewed it on this channel as well.
I will
So
say, if you're going to do a top 10 of the year so far, you need to see Top Gun before you make a top 10. I'll just say that
yeah,
because it might
okay,
jump in there. So
right.
if you're going to at least squeeze one more in there before you put your list together, I highly recommend. And plus, I just think you should see that movie in a theater. If you can get to a theater and see it,
Mhm.
please do. You know what I mean? So that's all I would say. It's worth it. So yeah,
Yeah, I want to try to get that in before we do that one. I can't see us doing it any earlier than next week anyway.
sure.
So, but yeah, I just wanted to shout that out. And then yeah, all the tournament and tier ranker fights on this channel, the Snack Hero reviews that Jordan does. Just a lot of content coming to the channel and friends of the channel as well.
Mhm.
So just watch all the content. It's even just if you don't watch it, just hit the like button. Just like the video. That helps too.
Hey, put it on in the background and listen to it while you're doing laundry or something. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Just listen to it. Like we try to make these shows where you can listen to them too. You know, you don't necessarily have to watch them. You know, you can just hear
right.
us yap like a
Yeah.
podcast. So
And if you're one of those who can do laundry, if you can wash it, dry it, and fold it in the same day, tell me your secret.
I know. Yeah, I did that. I literally did that today. I folded my laundry from yesterday today. So yeah, and I know what that's all about. And you put it off. You keep turning the dryer on. You're like, I'll get to it in 30 minutes. I'll
Yeah,
get to it in 20 minutes, and then you
not
keep
quite
going.
yet.
Not quite yet. Yeah, I get that. But this is not a podcast about laundry. This is a podcast
No,
about movies.
that's
And
going to be our spin-off series.
yes.
And which detergent do you find?
You
Anyway,
know, I prefer liquid fabric softener to the sheets, you know, because I think it just dissolves. You know, no, we're not doing
let me tell
that.
you about the best Tide Pods.
Yes, right.
But
The
no,
tastiest
and
ones.
yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed our discussion on the Jurassic franchise. Let us know your thoughts. How would you rank them? What are some of your favorite moments of the series?
And
What's your opinion on Dominion?
did you like Dominion? If you like Dominion, tell us why. Yeah, please
Yeah, it
do.
seems to be the
Mhm.
divisive movie of the year so far. And yeah, if you like it, tell us why.
Mhm.
If you don't like it, tell us why.
Mhm.
We're just always interested to hear opinions
Yeah,
on
totally.
movies, even if they don't agree with ours.
Mhm.
That's the beauty of movies. No one's favorite movie is always the same. No one
Mhm.
likes every movie. No one dislikes every
Oh,
movie.
that reminds me,
You want
Jacob.
to hear
You want to
why?
start doing that favorite movie series thing soon
I
too, right?
do. I need to. I
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
saying that I'm going to do it, and then I just
For some shorter, quicker content on the channel, just like little 15, 20-minute things of just like, yeah, my favorite movie and why. Yeah, no,
yeah. I
yeah,
come
we'll
up
do
with ideas, and then I never follow through with them.
that. I'll keep
This
bugging
this
Jacob
is
if
one that I want
I
to.
keep
So
bugging
if
him. Yeah,
yeah,
I'll bug
I've
him.
got people interested, and I'm gonna make that
Even if we
happen.
have to kick it off by you doing it for me as like the first one, you know what I mean? And then we break off from there just to kind of test the waters, you know what I mean? Like if we have to do that like after one of these shows or something
Right.
and just film one of those real quick and then, you know, make him that way he has it in the can and like make him come up with a thumbnail and make him come up with a, you know,
Yeah.
with an intro just to push it forward. We'll do that. But yeah, I like the idea. So, and you can just interview different people from the community who wants to come on just for 20 minutes or whatever and talk about the favorite movie. You know, cool. You know, I think it's a great idea. So I like it.
Yeah. So that'll be coming soon. With all the content that we've mentioned already.
Mhm.
Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell because we don't always go live at the same time.
Mhm.
Uh, as you can tell by us going live on a Monday. Thank you for watching, and until next time.